Way up north, there is a mysterious island where vast areas of land are covered with perpetual ice. Iceland. Its landscape is rugged and torn by huge volcanoes and mighty waterfalls. A few years ago, 14% of Iceland's landmass was turned into a national park, the biggest in Europe. It has a heart of ice, the Vatnajökull National Park. A reconnaissance flight over the perpetual ice of the Vatnajökull Glacier. It's Magnus Thoma's job to monitor the biggest glacier in Europe every 4 weeks, as most volcanoes are located here, deep below the ice, and nobody knows when the next eruption may occur.
So being a pilot in Iceland is actually quite interesting. I think we have the best office view in the world, and you always see something new, for example, and it's challenging also. We have a lot of uncontrolled area, and it's the weather is challenging, of course, can change in 5 minutes. So you always have to be very well prepared with your weather briefings.
The ice of the Vatnajökull is up to 1,000 meters thick. Often you can only see from the air if volcanoes are starting to spit fire under the glacier.
With these flights that we're doing, we do this about approximately every month to get pictures of the area, and I would say maybe the most challenging part is always getting in the right position.
The photos of the volcanic systems need to be taken from the same direction in order to be comparable. Job done, but the way back can also be quite perilous, as the warm layers of lava can cause changes in the thermal updraft.
It was kind of just dangerous to fly over it because of the warm air rising up from it, and it caused a lot of turbulence. So we always, we pilots, try to avoid going directly over it.
On average, 5 volcanoes erupt on Iceland per year. The last eruption took place 2 years ago. It's hard to tell which of the volcanoes will be next. Magnus Thoma grew up near Reykjavik, Iceland's capital. As a child, he saw the impact of the forces that are released during the eruption of a volcano. His colleagues from Reykjavik University will analyze the photos he took.
So now we're uploading the pictures to the university, and hope that they came out really good.
Iceland is located near the Arctic Circle and is the biggest volcano island in the world. In 2008, the biggest national park in Europe was created here around the Vatnajökull Glacier. It has a size of 14,000 square kilometers. On its northern border are the Great Plains of the Askja volcanic system. Volcanologists from Reykjavik University, headed by renowned geologist Freystein Sigmundsen, are here to determine if a new eruption of the Askja is imminent.
The volcanoes in the Vatnajökull National Park, they tend to be quiet for many decades, and then they erupt once in a while, so there can be long period of dormancy. They are quite different. We can have very explosive eruptions with tephra fall or ash plume that spreads over large distance, or we can have lava flows. And the eruption in 2014 produced this very huge lava flow. We are maybe worried that an explosive eruption could have more influence on people in Europe because of the ash plume that can travel a long distance.
Big volcanic eruptions aren't only a threat for Iceland and air travel. They could cause climate changes and destroy whole harvests in Europe.
This is a leveling rod to do the leveling observations. We will place it on benchmarks, and then we can measure accurately the elevation difference between two sites.
They work inside the caldera of the Askja volcano, which erupted in 1961 for the last time.
We are trying to measure the pressure inside the volcano. Has it changed? Is the pressure increasing? Is there magma flowing into the volcano? And we can do that by measuring the elevation difference precisely between set of stations. And the idea is that if there is new magma that comes in, then the volcano will inflate like a balloon. It goes up. And we can measure it with this technique with an accuracy of better than 1 millimeter, so it's very precise.
So if one side moves upward, an eruption is imminent. The cooled lava is brittle. There are many deep fissures in the ground. After an eruption in 1875, a lake built inside the big caldera. They need to hike for a few hours in order to reach the next measuring location.
This is a dangerous place here. 2 years ago, there was a major rock slide, collapse of material into the lake, creating a huge wave, tsunami, that came on land here. Reached an elevation of 30 meters above the lake level, so it was catastrophic, but luckily no one was here.
Life on Iceland is influenced by shifts in the weather and the ground. The first measurements are done. Now the geologists only need to reach their base camp in the middle of the volcanic area. This hut is one of the very few locations in the national park where you can find refuge. Nobody was here for a whole year, as it is only used for doing the measurements.
So it's a small hut, but it is good shelter. And it can be very windy, lots of rain, cold. It can snow during the summertime, but this is a good base.
The geologists immediately start their analysis of the data, What's the Askja system status?
So we have discovered that Askja is deflating, it is subsiding slightly by up to a few centimeters. This signifies pressure decrease in the roots of the volcano. It means that there is no inflow of new magma into the volcano. Things are safe, things are stable here. So we will now focus our attention on Bárðarbunga, the subglacial volcano of main interest. That is where we need to monitor and try to understand what will happen in the future.
But the geologists decide to rest a little before their next destination, Bardarbunga, the neighboring volcano. Even at the height of summer, temperatures may drop below zero out there.
After a day like this, what we have experienced, it's amazing landscape, forces of nature, and being able to carry out high-level scientific research at the same time, that's very unique. And being with good friends in the highlands of Iceland, that is really great.
The rivers from the volcanic area swell more and more on their way to the Arctic Sea, turning the coastal strip of this otherwise barren island deep green. The most famous animals of the island live on this pasture, the Icelandic horses. The two Germans, Jasmina and Katharina, work at the Hornhesta farm. When the Vikings built their settlements in Iceland, the horses they brought here were their biggest helpers in this rugged and forbidding land. They are still considered beings that connect man with the gods. Purebred Icelandic horses are very much sought after and are traded internationally. In Iceland, there is even a university for horse breeding.
I had worked here for a year and then applied to study at the university in Hola. I studied there for a year, and the second year there starts in August. I only arrived here 4 days ago, but I'm planning the same.
Ómar Ómarsson is the owner of the farm and one of the biggest horse breeders in Iceland.
The most important thing for us is the character of our horses. They are friendly and easy to handle. They are consistent, but still sensitive and wild. And of course, they've got a great temper. Right, now I've got a new job for you. Ride over the land and check all the horses and foals to see if they're healthy.
Mostly during the year, the horses of the farm live in the wild, but sometimes their well-being needs to be monitored. Quite often, nobody really knows where they are, and it's a long way to their pastures. The young women can't ride through the rough terrain for more than 2 hours though. It's important to rest once in a while. They love their horses, but they also grew fond of the people here.
The people here are quite confident. They often do whatever they like. That's the beauty of it all. If they like to go riding, they just do it. And they're generally very easygoing.
The days are long during the summer in Iceland, but if Jasmina and Katarina don't succeed in finding the horses soon, they need to turn back, as there is no way of spending the night out here. Finally, they spot the herd. Are the animals in good health?
Of course they can get injured and hurt their legs with all the rocky terrain. And there are hierarchic encounters as well. But the most common injuries out here in the wild are on their legs.
In order to properly check the horse's well-being, they need to get closer. The horses enjoy their freedom around here.
In Germany, we also try to allow our young horses as much freedom as possible on the biggest possible pastures. But it's a really big difference compared to the distances here. We rode for hours in order to look after them. They appear to be fine, they all seem healthy, and they all eat well. Nothing to worry about.
Not far from the horses' pastures, Iceland's rugged mountains reach up to the sky. Helga Anadottir works as a ranger in the south of the national park.
What I think is special about Vatnajökull National Park is this combination of forces that are creating the variety of landscape features we have. So these forces are geothermal activity, volcanoes, earthquakes, and glaciers.
She is especially interested in glaciers, as they melted more rapidly during the past few years. Now she checks on Hofsjökull, one of the big glacier tongues in the south.
You can see the lake here, and you can see the gravel in front of it. You don't see much vegetation on the gravel, so we say, oh, it's not such a long time since there has been either a lake or a glacier there.
Here the ice seems to be melting faster too. Helga Anadottir takes notes of the coordinates in order to compare the changes.
There always were two rivers on either side of this mountain, but now it's only one. And what we see is just an empty passage of a glacier river.
But what does that mean? Is there less ice melting, or did the water find another passageway? The cold trace leads her to Iceland's biggest glacier lagoon, the Jökulsárlón. Here, Helga wants to find out how much of the glacier has melted away.
It's the biggest glacier lake in Iceland, and the reason for the lake, for this area, is because all the dramatic changes that are going on. This has not always been like this. We have photos and measurements, and around during 1930 there was a glacier where we are now.
But why does the Vatnajökull melt? Is it due to global warming, or because there is an active volcano under the ice?
But volcanic activity, of course, there are a lot of volcanoes, active volcanoes underneath Vatnajökull Glacier. And when there is an eruption underneath, of course, there's a fire, and they are melting the ice underneath the glacier.
Around 8,000 square kilometers of land are covered by the Vatnajökull's ice. But Europe's largest glacier has been dwindling faster and faster in the past 100 years.
I'm collecting data, I'm taking photos when I'm at work and I go closer to the glacier. Of course I take photos and I try to take reference point to see, okay, this is where I am today. And just collect, because we know the changes are happening so fast and we just want to get those information where the glacier is from time to time.
Helga hopes that her data will be of help for finding the cause for the melting ice. But one thing is certain, it does melt. And so the millennia-old ice slowly drifts into the North Atlantic to thaw. Iceland's glaciers are majestic, still. Not only the rangers and scientists are fascinated by the ice. German Henry Paul Wulff is training for his exam as a glacier guide. Denny Mattsson from Sweden is his coach today.
All right, so Vatnajökull is the glacier, and it translates into falling glacier. And what's cool about this one that is pretty unique is that it has one active part, which is the upper section, and one passive part, which is the lower section.
Henry originates from Berlin and has been working as a tourist guide on the island for 8 years now. The exams to become a certified glacier guide are tough. Today, it's his last training tour before the exam.
It's much harder to walk up there than down here. There are quite flat plateaus below. With climbing irons, we can walk almost like on regular ground, but in the rugged areas up there, there are many crevices in the ice that are almost invisible and therefore very dangerous. Up there, you can only walk on marked tracks. Without an experienced glacier guide, it's a bad idea to do otherwise.
Vatnajökull's glacier tongues are unpredictable. It thaws in certain places, which results in deep crevices. One misstep and you could fall into the abyss.
These glaciers seem both impressive and perilous to me. You can see how deep the crevices go down if you get close enough. It's quite something.
But the biggest threat can be the weather, as it changes nowhere faster than in Iceland.
Okay, Henry, so what we're going to do now is going to practice set up a hand line. It's a way to make it easier for the groups to travel down and up steeper sections of the glacier. So what I want you to do is go up there, set up a hand line with some handholds, the Alpine Butterfly that I know you know, and then we'll actually use the hand line for going up as well.
Denny Mattsson checks the safety leash. It's all good. But then the weather changes. What brought the German to the Icelandic wilderness?
I spend much more time in nature than I did in Germany, and I've grown very fond of it. I didn't have any of this before. I worked in an office, grew up in the city, and never came into contact with something like this. When I first came here, it instantly felt like home, and that was such a strong feeling that I wanted to live here.
The most important discipline for a glacier guide is climbing up an ice wall.
Okay, so welcome to the wall. This is our challenge for the day. We're going to climb this one. You have this beautiful waterfall to our right. Ice climbing is all about footwork, so that's what we're going to do. I'm sure you'll be fine climbing this wall.
If you haven't worked at a glacier for a while, you may get out of practice, especially if you don't practice your knots and work with ropes. It needs regular practice. I haven't done it for quite some time, that's why we're about to train that now. It's the nuts and bolts of working at a glacier because our life or the life of our clients depends on it. We can't risk our own lives or the lives of others. Better safe than sorry.
Put the rope in, and it's quite nicely done here. You have two pictures on the A to C. You have one hand that should go down to your belay hand, and then the climber should go up to the anchor and then down to the climber.
During the exam, this part especially mustn't go wrong.
Okay, lowering.
You could easily lose your footing here. That's what this safety rope is for.
Henry still has some time left for training before his exam. 12% of Iceland's landmass are covered by glaciers, and there are volcanoes below that left big gaps in the land throughout the past centuries. But even the most rugged volcanic landscape eventually turns green again, as we can see at the northern border of Vatnajökull National Park. For many years, Bryndís Pétursdóttir has been living here with her family and other beings that the Icelanders call Huldufolk, the hidden people.
I just want to bring a gift from my home to the hidden people where we are going to make a connection to them, and they would like that I had make an effort for some contact.
Believing in elves and trolls is quite common amongst the Icelanders. Sometimes roads make a turn without any apparent sense. They were built around elven territory. Today, Bryndís visits a magical place, the valley of Vesturalua.
The elves and the hidden people, they live around here, and they like the blend of the green areas and the rocks and the stones. So that is a contrast what they like, because that gives them opportunity to
live in the camouflage of the nature, so they don't stand out so much.
It is rumored that around 80% of Iceland's population believe in the existence of elves, trolls, and hidden beings.
This is a very typical scenery of where the Huldufolk is living, and both the stones and the grass and the trees together. And you can see this in many places in Iceland, very typical. And here are 3 families living together, and they are all as farmers. And they have big families, like 8 children and 9 children.
This belief is deeply rooted in the land's myths. It's a holy realm, the Kirkjan, the elven cathedral.
They're not good for you for a long time. I would never put a stone like this in my pocket, no. But it's good in small amounts. It's in belief in Iceland, if you put a stone like this in front of your house, it keeps thieves away. So it's a massive energy, but it's both good and bad, you know. You can balance a little bit of, if it's coming a lot of energy from crack underground, you can balance it by putting this kind of stone.
Over millennia, the river that is fed by the Vatnajökull glacier has eaten its way deep into the rock, forming a canyon. And similar to humans, the hidden people settled alongside its walls. Only people like Bryndís can see them.
The hidden people look just like us, women and men and children, boys and girls, and they just dress. You can see the differences in their dresses. They dress like maybe 300-400 years ago. And the girls always wear dresses, not pants. And yeah, they live a very simple farm life.
The belief in those mythical creatures is connected with the deep belief in the forces of nature. And according to Bryndís, this force can be felt nowhere better than at the Dettifoss, Europe's biggest waterfall. Do the elves and the hidden people have a stronger connection with nature? Do they feel the dangers it may induce?
I think if there would be eruption or volcanic activity, you would have to be the elves and hidden people friends or have been in contact with them before. If you are supposed to be, get a notice before, they don't go and ask, they tell you without any connection. But they usually don't want to interfere, because we have our own life and they have their own life. But they would maybe sneak into your dreams and tell you to be prepared that something is going to happen.
The untamed power of water and the volcanoes pose a permanent threat to Iceland, but they are also a big opportunity for its inhabitants. For many years, they have been producing energy from natural sources. Huge power plants were set up near the national park, using the hot steam from volcanic depths. Big reservoirs provide power plants with water. At the eastern border of the national park, a power plant was built with tunnels that were 80 kilometers long. Arni Odensson was there when the structure was built.
I think it has changed a lot. Before, people relied on fishing, that was the main industry, and it is still a very important industry in the area. But with the smelter and this station here that provides the energy for the smelter, I think there are about 700 or 800 people that are working directly or indirectly for this industry.
Many jobs were created, but there was also criticism about the impact the projects had on nature. Arni Odensson has to make sure that the power plant is safe for the environment and that it works without any problems. One of the turbines isn't fed with water.
Well, normally there would be water in this channel here, but right now there is some maintenance work going on inside this house, and I think we should just go and check out what is going on there.
The Karajūka power plant is one of the biggest water power plants in Europe. Water from several reservoirs feeds the canals that lead to the power plant. The floodgates of the canals are under steady pressure and require constant maintenance.
In the spring and early summer, when the water level in Hálslón Reservoir is low, we get a lot of runoff water from this area. A lot of snow in this area, so when the spring comes, then we get a lot of water in this area. So it's very important for us, in the spring especially.
Then the floodgates are opened again. Over a decline of 600 meters, the water rushes in direction of the power plant. Arni Odensson needs to go back into the mountain. It's an 11-kilometer drive through the tunnel to get to the core of the power plant, where the turbines are propelled by the water.
The total capacity of this station is 690 megawatts. And really it all starts up in the glacier, in Vatnajökull Glacier.
Water, ice and fire determine the life on this volcanic island near the Arctic Circle. It's a new day at work for volcano pilot Magnus Torma at the airfield of Mývatn.
So it's really nice to have Freystein coming on board. It's nice to see him again. He's of course a really famous geologist.
Like every month, Magnus Torma prepares his Cessna for his exploration flight over the volcanoes that hide below the glaciers. The weather couldn't be better. Freystein Sigmundsson is a professor for geology at Reykjavik University and one of the leading volcanologists in the world.
Oh, hi.
Pleasure.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Good. So, for this trip, I thought inspect today.
Yeah.
So I want to fly here from the north. I want to fly towards the Askja volcano to look for changes, in particular at the lake here. Any overall changes in the volcanic zone. If we go further south, I want to look for the Bárðarbunga volcano. There have been some more earthquakes, so we want to see if we can see anything unusual from the air.
First, he returns to the huge Askja volcanic system, which he recently monitored. He is convinced that only steady monitoring of the volcanic activities will lead to a fairly precise prediction of eruptions. The crater of Askja is 100 kilometers away. The immense size of this volcano can be observed best from the air.
You see any new geothermal activity?
No, not really. We'll try a little bit, go a little bit further here.
Yeah.
The scientists set course to the currently most dangerous volcano, the Bárðarbunga. It erupted in 2014, but the geologist fears a much bigger eruption. Freystein Sigmundsson and his team have determined a volcano with a crater size of 80 square kilometers under the ice of the Vatnajökull.
At Bárðarbunga, we are looking for changes in the ice. It is fully ice covered, so here we are looking for ice cauldrons or subsidence on the ice, evidence for new geothermal activity under the ice. That can mean new heating of the volcano or magma movements at that.
But at the moment, the Bárðarbunga seems to sleep peacefully under the ice.
Magma is moving inside these volcanoes. I, as a scientist, I'm interested in trying to understand these magma movements and have been devoting my career to that kind of research. At the same time, it is very beneficial for all public here in Iceland and Europe and the world to know what is going on. Because when the next eruption happens under the ice, it will have a catastrophic effect.
Freystein Sigmundsson and his team cannot prevent such a huge eruption under the glacier's ice, but they are getting closer and closer in regards to a precise prediction.